I am just about to start a new job. I've been taking some time out to work on a book which I'm writing about what I get up to at the prison. I investigate and study EVP, which is a branch of instrumental transcommunication, ITC, which is a paranormal facet, if you will. It's involves recording just with a digital voice recorder on site, and anomalous audio manifests on the device, which can only be heard on playback. So I go around, I record, I take the recorder home, I listen, analyse and present it. So these sounds that come back, they are of a frequency that the human ear can't pick up in the moment. So a true EVP, electronic voice phenomena, capture can only be heard on playback. So you don't know what you're getting until you play it back. So that's what I do at the prison, and it started out as a bit of a hobby and it became a passion, and it's now gone even further than that. I've been coming here since day one of the prison opening, which I didn't know until recently, May the 12th, 2017, and I used to come once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, and at some points it was twice, 3 times a week. Now it's more like twice a month, depending, but I try and keep all my records straight, so I kind of can average out my results to see how many captures I got over a certain period of time, and try to ask questions about the results I get coming back. I would say the Gate Lodge, the old Gate Lodge 1790 edition, that's provided me not just with audio phenomena on a regular basis and some of the clearest captures I've ever had, but physical things as well. Also in the moment audio, where I've been the only person on site apart from one member of staff in the ticket office. I've had things crashing around my head that aren't there. I've had other kind of phenomena, anomalous things that you cannot explain. So for example, 2 recorders press record at exactly the same time in this one tiny room, recording 2 entirely different things. What does that tell you about the nature of the place, the nature of reality, time, everything? It's not just ghosts as people would perceive it. It's not just a haunted place, whatever that means. There's something else going on. So the first time I came here, I'd had kind of basic experience with the cliche paranormal groups. When I lived in Kent, I used to go out with the big groups and you try all your hand at all these activities. And I thought, this isn't really for me. I'd wait till the free time at the end and then off I'd go on my own. Now it's due to the TV ghost shows that I'm not that keen on anymore, but I'd heard about EVP through that and thought, I can have a go at this. So I bought a little cheap recorder and I went off on these big ghost hunts. When we moved to Somerset, I did one group hunt and I thought, I cannot do this anymore. So I found this place, just on an off chance really. Recorded during the day for about an hour and a half, went home, thought I'm not going to have anything because it's daytime. You can't get anything creepy daytime. Plugged my recorder into the laptop, put my headphones in, and over the hour and a half I got 35 individual EVPs come up, which isn't a bad first haul. So I analysed that and thought, well, I've got to go back. So I came back and back and back, and gradually it became an obsession with the cataloguing of everything I got. Not the editing so much, because I don't try not to change what I get too much. But then it got to such a haul. By the end of 2017, I had about 450 EVPs. To date, I've got just shy of 5,000. So you average that out over the year, and I can't stop now. And this is a study. This is something that asks as many questions as it presents you with more questions than you can ask, basically, or ever answer. Right, it's called Lost Voices, which is also the name of my website, based about all my findings. It's not just the prison either, because obviously this is my #1 place. So most of my evidence does come from here, but I've also been to Sachsenhausen concentration camp in Berlin, various Normandy war sites, other famous haunted sites in England like the Ram Inn, other prisons, Bodmin Jail, etc., Fort Amherst in Kent, Fort Borsal in Kent, many places and various residences as well. My own house I had activity in, and I've recorded there, I've recorded in other people's houses. But the book kind of brings it all together, tells people what I do, if they're interested, why I do it, and gives examples, and keeping it not just a solid read, but little examples, little excerpts from my blog, things like that, photographs, other evidence all brought together. So it's not just about audio, although it mainly is, but it's the other experiences I've had because of what I do. It has changed. You get, I think, 2 or 3 types of people who come here. There's the people that are here just for a day out. They don't really care, and that's their choice. If they don't want to engage with the place on like an emotional level, say I could be walking around quiet and you'd hear a family come in, slamming the doors, shouting, screaming. There's like the lack of reverence for what has been here. I think what this place is like a well of memory and emotion, and you have to respect that. People lived and died here, and you wouldn't behave in a certain way at a cemetery or a hospital or something. You wouldn't do that. So you've got people that come in and see it as a bit of a joke, a bit of a laugh. Then you have on the flip side people who, like myself I suppose, that probably feel it not too much, but we are very tuned into the fact of what this was. You walk around, you can feel the age, you can feel the atmosphere of it, and although it's 412 years old, I think, it's the modern parts of it, you kind of walk around and you think, oh yeah, it's a modern building. Then you look up, you look at the architecture, you feel, and you think, hang on, this is something special. This is 4 centuries of life, death, and everything in between. So you've got people like that, and then you've got the people that maybe neither one thing or the other. It's a historical building, yeah, great. It's like I've got a friend who, he lives in a 1600 farmhouse. He couldn't give a damn about history. He's not tuned in, he's not interested. I said to him recently, would you like to come to the prison? No, not really, not interested. So it's people's perception of history, what it means, and the emotional value that it holds, I guess, like custodians of memory. It's important. It needs to be a business that brings in footfall and money to keep it preserved, because without that, this place would be flats. Okay, so you need to have the good with the bad. Feet through the door mean that this place can be preserved, and it must be. If you don't, then it's just a devastating loss to history, and you've got to protect it and preserve it. I do, yes. I feel that it's difficult to be, you have a hard enough time being interested in this field without other people coming in making it more difficult, and ironically it's the people that are most passionate about it that tend to destroy that credibility, which is, it's good that there are people passionate about it. There's so many, TV shows, commercial ghost groups. Everyone's cashing in. It's a very popular thing at the moment, but people are going into it without realising what it actually is. I think it's not about horror, it's not about death necessarily. It's and paranormal just means something we don't understand that runs alongside normal. So to somebody, a skeptic, somebody on the street, you say, paranormal, what is it? Oh, it's ghosts. What do you mean by ghost? Define ghost. A ghost, do you mean an apparition? Do you mean a spirit, an entity, poltergeist, whatever? A ghost is not a spirit is not a poltergeist. It's as fathomless as like looking at the night sky and seeing stars. Within the field of the paranormal, there are multitudes of different variations. There's no one thing that is the same. Everything connects, everything is different. So yes, people that come in, say for example the group hunts, people, general public come in, they want to see a ghost. That's what their main objective is. And for me, that's like going on a whale watch and demanding humpback whale jumping directly over the boat. That's what they want. It's all about the seeing. It's not about anything else. That's all they want. Have you seen a ghost? No, well, it's all rubbish then, isn't it? Okay. Then you get the groups that are so willing and desperate to see something. Every knock is a demon. Every feeling, every sensation is a spirit. I remember the first group hunt I went on in Kent, in Fort Amherst. We were up in, it's a Napoleonic fort, chalk tunnels, up in the gun room, wooden floors, about 30 of us, which is far too many, on different Ouija boards and things. And there's a blackbird outside on the window ledge, and it's tweeting away, it's going to bed, the light's going down. And the lady leading the group, she said, "I feel a spirit called Sebastian. Sebastian, are you a soldier here?" Yes, yes. And the bird tweeted, "I can hear you whistling, Sebastian." And everyone's going, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is just..." Easily sway people desperate to get that validation, the instant validation, without doing the work or understanding it, so it's a ghost. And that discredits everything, because there is so much more to this field than a visual ghost, the idea of one or whatever. But it's deep, it's scientific, you can go further with it than science, I believe. It's something that, because it's so untapped, there is no background to it really. You can go as far as you like, because it's considered by the scientific community to be absolute waffle. Well, it's not. They refuse to acknowledge it, like parapsychologists, largely sceptical. There's not a base as such to study this properly. And if there was, there is material to do this. There is, there are people and groups that would be willing to undertake a proper study, not just SPR, ASAP, the Ghost Club, but people like myself. We've got a real passion for it, and are willing to do the work, but we just get pushed aside because you're one of the ghost lot, you're paranormal, you're just a lunatic. We're not all of us. Some of us are, some of us aren't. Yes, again, it's the fact that majority of people will be easily influenced because they want to experience something, they want to believe something, and it's an exciting thing to believe and experience, and when it does happen, it is life-changing. But there's so many people out there that will ultimately discredit everything that's gone before, because of their over-eagerness to interpret something as paranormal. Right, well, this article I wrote shortly after discovering coming to the prison in 2017. I submitted it in July, so it only opened in May to the public. But I was so blown away with what I was finding here, my EVP discoveries, that I wanted to get it down on paper to write about it, because I felt like I was sitting on a treasure trove and had no one to share this with. So I've written an 8-page article. Complete with photographs about how I came to the prison, what I do here, and conclusions to be drawn from it, either that I had drawn or would hope to do so. So yes, it's an American magazine. There's quite a few differences between this and UK magazines. It's very cliched and kind of plays to the whole ghosts of dead people, paranormal is about death and morbid things and skulls, and you can only do ghost hunting if you dress in black, have tattoos and listen to death metal. It kind of plays into that cliche, and it's not like that. I mean, I'd like to go do my recording in a yellow tutu or something, just to kind of blow away all those boundaries and the cliches. But magazines like this, and indeed the TV ghost shows, they play to this, and that is what people think ghost hunting is, and it's not, because you can't hunt ghosts to start with. But it's yes, I'm pleased to be published, but I do say in the article what my bugbears are with the field of the paranormal,
which is brilliant.
And lots of it is down to the nomenclature, the words within, that people just assume they know what it means. I mean,
I like your point about the word paranormal, the fact that I've got into many a debate with a family member about he's one of these people who will, if you can't explain it, it has to be a ghost.
Right.
And the word paranormal, as you said, is simply something out of the normal.
Absolutely.
It is anomalous. It is something that it just can't be explained. And so you can interpret it as a ghost, you can interpret it as the person projecting, imagining, seeing things, whatever. But paranormal by definition is something outside,
undefined.
undefined.
You cannot define it, and you never will be able to. By its very nature, it is something that you will never know the truth of, or the answer. You can have little peaks and theories, but you will never actually know. And that's the joy of it, I guess. That's why people are so obsessed with it, because
Keeps going.
it's making our human existence, like, it's exciting. It's a tangible excitement. We all feel it, and yeah. And then, is there life after death, which is for most people what paranormal ghost hunting is all about, when in reality it's not. It's so much more than that. I'm sure. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons I got into it as well.
Yeah.
And it does give you that validation if you're looking for it, but not necessarily down the routes that the group hunt organisers would think. I mean, everyone can have a go on a Ouija board and believe they've got an answer. But it takes a bit more kind of patience and dedication, I think, to take it further yourself. It's a worry for everyone. We are all mortal. We all know what's going to happen. And even if people say they're not interested in that ultimate question, you know, what happens after we die? Will we see our loved ones once we've gone? Whether you say you are intrigued or not, everyone is, and it terrifies us as much as kind of, you know, you're drawn to it and repelled in equal measure, I think. And there are answers to be had, but it's not all about death. I mean, everyone assumes that the paranormal is all about morbidity and things like that. It's not. I reckon like 60% of it might be death related, because it's the easiest, most natural way for us to kind of respond to what we're discovering. But it goes far deeper than that, and I could give you examples.
Please do.
So I met a lady called Carolyn Finley in 2018 at the prison. She's a medium, and I have to say she's a creditable medium. She's the real deal. She's not a wannabe. I do trust her. She was running tours for people. And she told me of an experience, because she said she has the same problem. People always assume that the paranormal is about death, and obviously she deals with a lot of kind of genuine death experiences, what people would expect a medium to deal with. Anyway, she was telling me about 4 or 5 years ago, and there was a young couple got in touch with her. They'd moved into a house locally, they'd heard about her, and they were worried because independently they'd both seen this small girl, and I think she was wearing a little blue cardie or something, on their living room floor with a colouring book, and she was just scribbling. And they don't have a child, there's nobody else there, and this child would be there and then she would disappear. And the couple didn't talk about it until they both realised they'd both seen the same child, and then they thought, we've got to do something about this. So they got in touch with Carolyn, and she said, well, have you spoken to the previous owner? Are you still in touch? She said, yeah, we can do that. So they got this lady in. I think Carolyn knew her anyway, and they explained the situation, and she said, that was me. This was me when I was a child. It was my parents' divorce. They were going through a horrible time, and it was so traumatising to be in the house. All she would do is hide herself away and colour in her colouring book. And that apparition was of a person who is still alive and in her 60s now. But that has imprinted upon that house for whatever reason, under certain circumstances that will replay. And you have to ask, if that's one situation of an apparition, a ghost, as some people would see it, what does that mean for everything else? And that's even happened here when Carolyn was doing a tour. We had 2 ex-members of staff at the back, and Carolyn was talking about somebody she was picking up on, saying his name is such and such. I do know the name, but I'd rather not say it. Physical description and what he'd done, etc. And then the lady at the back who worked here said, well, that's not true because he's still alive. And Karen said, well, that's not an issue. It's not all about dead people. She calls them atmospheres. So I suppose an imprint of a consciousness which is accessible to people, everyone, I guess, but it's your perception and your kind of your grounding in reality and what is and isn't possible, your conditioning. I think we're all conditioned to believe things from a very early age that are or are not possible. And what Carolyn was talking about blew me away, and it really opens your mind to what the paranormal actually is, and it's just this fathomless subject. It's not a subject, it's a massive, so you keep going back to it, but a canvas. It's just, it goes on and on and on, and it poses as many questions as it answers, really. I am a believer, but I will not believe anything. I think a sceptical believer. I'm not going to believe that a bit of dust coming across my lens is a ghost or a fairy or an angel or whatever. I think what I do, the EVP side of it, is the most credible, because I mean, so many people take a photo and assume, oh, this is a ghost, look at what I've got, and they'll stand by that. But the EVP side of it, it is, yes, it could be faked. Yes, it could be my false vocal cords. It could be my subconscious coming through. It could be speakers in the wall, except it couldn't because you don't hear anything at the time. It's all on playback. It could be stray radio waves, but I guarantee they're not with me. I would never fake. I do everything I can to kind of cut out any kind of audio pollution or the chance of me interpreting something else as a voice, and it's not always a voice, it could be other sounds too. Many of the groups who come into contact with, it's like, it's almost just a childish joy of an acceptance of everything is paranormal. I mean, we went down the corridor, Julie had a scratch on her arm, and then we heard a demon. It's like, it's just, again, it's the blanket acceptance that because I'm interested in it, everything is of a paranormal nature, and it's not. But what I do, I try to filter that down to actual proof, actual evidence, and if somebody doesn't believe it, that's fine. I'm not going to force them, but I try to do a really good job in promoting the reality of what I'm finding. There has to be protocols in how you do things, but obviously it's not an exact science because people largely think it's a waste of time. But if you're going to be serious about studying this stuff, I think you have to set your own boundaries. And then indeed some of the larger groups such as SPR, ASAP, I wrote to them in 2017, just before I wrote this article, and they just belittled me. They said that because of how I work, which is largely solo, I could be discredited because I could be faking, etc. And the holy grail of paranormal evidence is that you have somebody there to back it up, which I understand. But in an EVP sense, it's, if you have another person present, it pollutes the audio. And yes, you can record successfully with somebody. I have done, got some very good evidence. But anyway, I was discredited for that. And I read up on the SPR guidelines of how to investigate, and it cuts out so much of, they've got their core values and how to do this, how to do that. If you don't have expensive equipment, you're nothing. If you work alone, you're nothing. If you don't do this, you do that. It's like they're so set in their boundaries and the way they do things that many of the things that are found out by the little person, other investigators, is just discredited, or just, it's like if you threw a wad of money, coins and notes on the floor, they only want the notes. The rest of the little stuff, the small change doesn't matter, but it does, it all adds to like the evidence bank. But to believe too much and too readily discredits.